Thanks for joining my space. My name is Afam. Finally, Kwam1, the Fuji music legend, tenders apology, condemning his actions at the airport where he tried to stop a moving aircraft from departing. His apology is coming at a point when Nigerians are beginning to ask a lot of questions concerning safety, impunity, and again trying to find out if there is still rule of law in the Nigerian airspace. Listen to his apology, and after then, I'm going to bring you a true version of what really transpired between Kwam1, the airport staff, and the pilot, because a lot of stories came up at the onset saying Kwam1 was about entering the aircraft with alcohol and so many things like that. I'm going to bring you the true story from an insider. Stay with me.
My name is Kwam1's Marshall, also known as K1 the Ultimate. I am here to make clarification of the incident that happened on the 5th of August 2025 at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport local wing while about to board aircraft from Abuja to Lagos. The incident is highly regrettable because I have contributed the better part of my life in the past 50 years to the growth and development of Nigeria, my country, art and culture, both in and out of the country. I've been a good ambassador of this great nation, in and out, in very many ways. Somebody like me should not be found in such incidents. I accept responsibility and appealing to Mr. President, the country, the Honorable Minister for Aviation, the FAAN, the NCAA, and my fans across the globe to please pardon my behavior. Number one, I passed through 2 checkposts and the content of my cup was screened. Need to say I have any content in the cup. Until I got to the lounge while awaiting the boarding of the aircraft, I pour water in it because of my health situation. I need to be sipping water because I'm dehydrated, as recommended by doctor to me. Like I said, I take full responsibility of all incidents. Once again, I seek forgiveness from Mr. President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who is also my father and father of the nation, the Honorable Minister for Aviation, the pilot, the airline staff, passengers, and above all, my fans across the globe, my family, for the incident. My love for the country is unshakable. I am still the darling ambassador of our nation, and I'll continue to carry the banner of this great country everywhere all my life. Thank you once again. Please accept my apology.
Having listened to that apology, let me take you back to what exactly transpired. Like I said, at the beginning of this whole situation, different news went on air. Some said Kwam1 was trying to force himself into the aircraft with a flask containing alcohol. And when questions were coming asking how he managed to pass the screening spots, again we are told that he beat the security, refusing to submit himself for a check. And we still pondered, how did he manage to get to the tarmac? In this brief interview with the Director of Public Affairs of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, Mr. Michael Achimugo, truths are coming out. Just listen.
Michael Achimugo is the Director of Public Affairs at the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. He joins us for a frank conversation on this development. Mr. Achimugo, thank you for talking to us. Let's begin with what the public really hasn't heard yet. What did the CCTV logs and internal reports reveal that warranted a 6-month no-fly sanction on K1 and the suspension of the pilot's licenses?
Good evening to you and to our viewers. let me quickly, update some of the information that's out there. First off, it is not the NCAA that is placing the passenger on a no-fly list. The NCAA has issued an advisory to airline operators of Nigeria not to board or fly the passenger until investigations have been concluded into this matter. It is no longer a 6-month issue. It is until whenever investigations into this matter have been concluded. There is no certain date for that, but investigations are ongoing. Secondly, I wish to inform you that the NCA has today officially petitioned the Attorney General of the Federation and the Inspector General of Police to conduct a thorough investigation and prosecute K1, who was the passenger on that flight. The pilot, of course, as you know, has had her license suspended as well. Many truths can coexist, and the authority is looking to be fair and just in ensuring that everybody who was culpable in this embarrassing incident is brought to book.
It is indeed embarrassing. The Minister of Aviation was blunt in his assessment, calling it a dangerous breach that could have ended in tragedy. But talk to us about how a passenger even got onto the tarmac in the first place. Who granted him access into a restricted zone? Because we're hearing that the NCAA and FAN officials were with him at that point.
He had, passed through the scanner successfully, and he made use of the VIP lounge, which is normal. And preliminary investigations claim that it was at the VIP lounge that he got water, right? Now, if you are going to board your flight from the VIP lounge, you still have one more check to pass, check conducted by the pathfinders before you board the plane. It was at that point that the liquid was discovered, and he was told that he would not be able to board with that liquid and to stand aside. The allegation is that, having been asked to stand aside, he refused and began to walk towards the aircraft. Of course, maybe the security personnel did not want to be seen as violent and thought they could just walk with him and handle the issue until they got to the foot of the aircraft. After which the pilot was asked to come outside and assess the situation. While that was going on, in trying to prove that what he was carrying was harmless, he splashed water, and somehow some of it splashed on the pilot, who got angry, got back into the aircraft, and shut the door of the plane.
So we now know that the liquid is water because, there are conversations as to what exactly was carrying. The NCCA, in a statement released earlier, did say that there are...
I am telling you, I have just told you what preliminary investigations have revealed. It's an ongoing investigation. And until it is concluded, we cannot say what the facts are.
I hear you clearly. In your earlier statement, the NCCA did say there are no untouchables in the Nigerian airspace. But, critics argue that if this wasn't a public figure linked to power, the sanctions might have been harsher or faster. I mean, what happened could be regarded as forcible intrusion, or what the Minister of Aviation called hostage taking, which under ICAO-aligned definitions of unlawful interference speaks to a major breach. How come such intruder wasn't arrested at first instance? You said they were persuading him perhaps he was going to align to reason. But at the point where he was obstructing what appeared a moving plane, do you agree that Kwam1 enjoyed some undue preferential treatment at that particular point?
Well, pathfinders are not airport security in that sense. FAN AFSEC exists for a reason. Would have been their responsibility to make such an arrest. But they are not present where the pathfinders were conducting that search at that moment. So I don't know about privilege. You see, look, there's a history of unruly passenger behavior in Nigeria, even from passengers of lesser status. Please pardon for want of a better word. Nobody has been treated any differently. The law is the law. The NCA on its own does not exactly have the power to prosecute in these instances. And so what we can do, the highest we can do in this instance, is what we have done today by petitioning the Attorney General and the Inspector General of Police to conduct, investigations and prosecute the passenger. If he was sacred, then we would not have written that petition.
I hear you, but I'm just echoing what even the aviation minister had said. He had questioned why NCCA initially acted against only the pilots and not the celebrity. In fact, he said what applies to the goose must apply to the gander, right? So has ValueJet, but let's talk about what has happened thereafter. Has ValueJet been questioned or sanctioned in any way? What role did their ground staff play in letting things spiral out of control?
Well, the pilot was a ValueJet pilot and immediately had a license suspended along with that of the co-pilot. The CAA has acted based on the evidence available to it part time, and that's why the investigation is called ongoing. The first piece of evidence that came to the authorities' notice was the video. And even, in fact, the angle of that video did not show an unruly passenger at the time, on the first day. And that was why the press release issued by the authority addressed because you see, if anything had happened to this passenger from the video that we had seen on the first day, nobody would be speaking about how unruly the passenger had been. So based on that video, the right pin, it is standard protocol all over the world. If such an incident has occurred, that pilot is going to be stopped from flying pending investigations. And then as the investigations continue, questions are getting asked, more evidence is coming in. Now there are different angles of videos that were made by eyewitnesses. And then we can see afterwards that the passenger was actually unruly and was blocking the plane. Based on that new information is why we have now petitioned, because there's zero tolerance for such behavior anywhere in the world. If this passenger was at the Dubai International Airport, for instance, and he's been told you cannot take this water on board, would he have acted this way? The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, submits himself to safety protocols at the airport. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development submits himself to every security check at the airport. No Nigerian is bigger than the law. Those protocols are made for our own safety, the safety of every passenger. And it's quite disappointing to see a senior citizen of the country, act in such a manner. But, well, the police and the Attorney General will now handle the issue.
Well, Nigerians expect that this particular incident would trigger a revision of safety protocol enforcement, especially around high-profile individuals and airline crew accountability, and that NCAA will also pick some lessons to enforce going forward. But finally, before we let you go, you mentioned that Kwam1 has now been placed on no-flight till pending when this investigation is over. But when exactly does the public expect to get the final investigation report? And how will your agency ensure that this case doesn't quietly go away like many others?
Well, the Honorable Minister himself has gotten involved. There's no quietly going away in the matter. The investigations, the results of it will be published once the investigations have been concluded. You see, in aviation, no case is as simple as it is. People tend to oversimplify these things. Take accident investigation, for instance. Even abroad, it will always take years. Now, this is not that kind of case, but we expect these investigations to be concluded as soon as possible. It's not my place to preempt the investigations, but it will not be swept under the carpet, which is why we've taken it to the highest possible legal authorities in Nigeria.
Michael Achimogo is Director of Public Affairs at the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Now, let me welcome you to this section that might interest you the most, because we have to discuss this in detail I will also want to have your own opinion at the comment section. Let's take it gradually. At the first instance, the news we had was that Kwam1 was trying to force himself into the aircraft with the alcohol in the flask. Doesn't mean that it was not verified before announcement went on that he was taking in alcohol into the aircraft. Again, how managed Kwam1 was able to move, even if he had passed through the VIP? How was he able to get to the tarmac with that same flask without any attempt to stop him? Doesn't mean there was no security at the airport. The attention of the security agents were not called upon. If you ask me, the security spots which he passed that day, the staff there also needs to be questioned and apparently suspended for some days, and this will serve as a deterrent. I believe a lot of them must have received some bribe, tips. It happens when they see VIPs crossing the airport. The people at those spots where the alcohol or water or whatever was screened perhaps compromised. Kwam1, according to him, took water from the VIP and headed into the aircraft. Even if he had suspected it wasn't water, the content must have been verified before he gets to the tarmac. What if it was fuel? What if it was something flammable that could just caught fire on the flight? You allowed him to get to the tarmac. With the security needs to be worked on. That is one thing. Kwam1 as well has no reason whatsoever to block the aircraft, risking his life and that of others. The best thing he should have done was to petition the airline if he thinks he was right. Did you see the number of persons that tried to dodge the wing of the aircraft? Even the pilot that was thinking of taxiing in that situation is also very wrong and must be cautioned. And as well, I expect the pilot to come out and tender apologies. Now Kwam1 has already submitted his own apology to the country. We all still look forward to see the end of the investigation. This period, Nigerians must learn. We must have a respect for rule of law.